Hey guys, how are you? Welcome back to my garden. I hope you enjoyed my last video where I shared with you how to make a garland as a centerpiece for the mantle around the fireplace, because I absolutely had fun doing that and I really enjoy it so much. I can tell you, like last night when I came back home from my late evening walk with Alfie, I left the fairy lights in that garland on and there was still a fire going in the fireplace. And when I come back home, I walk on the road. There's a dike and it's a little elevator. There's a sidewalk. So I have like a view through our gate onto the fireplace in the living room when I'm walking there. And it was so warm and welcoming and beautiful, just such a greeting sight. I'm really happy with how it looks. Well, you can see today I'm standing outside. So what I want to do is transform all of this area and make Christmas decoration there as well. Something I do every single year. I'm really excited, and especially this year since I have a new color concept going on. But you can tell there's still like the Thanksgiving decorating. So what I need to do first actually is get in there, just take down all of the Thanksgiving decorating, need to see what I want to keep, what I want to incorporate into this year Christmas decor. Some of those plants that are in there, I will still be planting actually at the back of a slope, but I'll make a separate video out of that. So just that you know, there will be a separate video of me being planting again and probably doing a little bit like last winter cleanup or something in the garden. But what I want to do first actually is I just want to show you those kind of plants, because they're already sitting here, just a few, that I want to incorporate into today's decorating and what kind of decoration in general I have going on. I hope you're excited today's project, because this is something I really love to do. First of all, I want to give you a quick tour of all those things and plants that I'm going to use into today's project. So as it is about Christmas, obviously what do I have? I have a Christmas tree here. So this is a Caucasian fir. And when it comes to Caucasian fir, the name in German is completely different to the one in English. It's called Nordmannstanne, which translates into man of the North fir. And I always have this image in my head when I hear it of like this tall Scandinavian guy going to the woods chopping a tree for Christmas. So different. I mean, just as a little side fact, but I just always think it's so funny that the name is completely different. This to me is like the very traditional, typical Christmas tree. Growing up, we always had one of those because, first of all, the needles are very soft. You could just touch them. They're very lovely. They have this really nice, deep green lush color, which also is really beautiful. And if you don't grow them in a pot, they last very long as well. So even if you have them for 2-3 weeks, they're not gonna like lose all their needles when you shake them inside. But this one will go outside, and I bought it in a pot because what I intend on doing is after the holiday season, I want to pot it on into a bigger pot, and eventually it will make it through summer, and then I can use it again like next year and the year after. And when it grows too big, maybe I will put it in the ground, who knows. When it comes to evergreens, I'm quite particular with those. I like blue spruce, for example, but a classical fir, I don't have a single one in the garden yet. So let's see, maybe after a couple of years and with like some emotional stories attached to this one, maybe I'll find a place for it. Let's see. Then what else do I have? I have something that you might recognize. So if you saw my decorating for Halloween video, I used some white heathers, and since I changed my color concept for my Christmas decoration this year, in the previous year I always had like gold, red and green, kind of traditional. This year I focus more on tones of white and natural brown tones, a little coppery and bronze tones. I thought these fit just perfectly. So I stored them just aside of a driveway because I knew Christmas is going to come at one point, left them in their pots, and here they are again, and I think that they'd be really beautiful in the entire arrangement. Then obviously this is about winter time and Christmas, so how can I not use hellebores? And I have one classic white hellebore, and I love growing those, also in the garden. They are perfect to underplanting your shrubs. I grow them amongst my hydrangea paniculata, but they even thrive really well underneath my willow, for example. And aren't they just cheerful? Like, we're in the time of the year where everything in the garden gently and slowly fades out, and then you have these fresh, bright pop colors in your borders, and now in my pops on the way to my main entrance as well. Absolutely beautiful. So I'm really going to put it in the ground after this season. This is something I always do each year. And here they even naturalize. So there's one area where I had a lot of offspring this year that I could transplant, which really excited me. If you're not growing hellebores, maybe I can encourage you on doing it for yourself. Number one is they maybe extend the season or they start the new season. For me, they always start the new season in a way, like the garden goes to sleep and then they come to life, and this is like the garden almost the New Year's for me always starts with these here, because after autumn all the bright colors of autumn fade out, and then the year starts fresh with these crisp white, very innocent color in your garden. But if you have like a nice warm winter day, what you will see is bees come out, and they're really going to fly to this here because they are full and full of pollen. So they are an amazing plant for wildlife, to attract any kind of wildlife to your own garden. So if you're not growing any of these yet, maybe I can encourage you, try it for yourself. It is absolutely brilliant. Then I have one more hellebore here. So this is a variety called Winter Bells, and Winter Bells, as the name already implements, it has bell-shaped flowers other than the one that I just showed you. This is a complete different variety, and the reason for it is like, as long as they haven't been pollinated, the bells or the flower bells are hanging down, and after the bees come in and they've been pollinated, on most varieties they start to change their growing direction, and then they start growing upwards. And this is because by growing like a bell shape in the winter time, when there's a lot of rain, cold wind, whatever, they protect the pollen basically by this growing habit. What I want to do after I staged everything and potted everything up, I'm going to give you a close look at everything and a good tour of everything, so you really get to enjoy and see all of these, because they're very delicate in color. They have these like green whitish flowers with a tint of red to them, and these reddish stems, absolutely loving them. Then when it comes to decorating for Christmas, I really love to play with like evergreens and leaf structure and texture. Obviously, you have your pines and your firs going on, but this is something that I absolutely loved in the garden centre, and something that normally I cannot grow in the garden. It's a rhododendron. This is a variety called Rhododendron ponticum variegata, and whenever you read the name variegata, there is some sort of variegation going on, and obviously this is a leaf variegation. So rhododendrons are evergreens, they don't drop their leaves, so I know, of course, like it is a leaf variegation. But sometimes when you buy shrubs in the garden centre during winter time, there are no leaves on it, and you just see the label and you see the word variegata in the name, you know there is probably a leaf variegation going on. When it comes to rhododendrons, they love to thrive in acidic soil, something that I don't have here. I tried it and they kind of faded out. But if you really want to grow them in your garden, what you can do is you just dig a little bigger hole for them, because rhododendrons, they have shallow roots and the root ball is quite small actually. It's really moderate in comparison to a lot of other shrubs or trees or whatever you are growing. So you can even transplant them later on. And then you can just come in with like special soil for rhododendrons, fill it up in the hole and give them just a perfect good home. They won't thrive obviously as good as to where I grew up in northern Germany, because there we had more acidic soil, so they're very happy there. But you can still manipulate it a little bit and give them like a good home in your garden if you want to. But I really want to grow this one in a pot and continue growing this one in a pot, because this variety grows up to like 1 meter in height and 1 meter in width. And according to my research, the smaller varieties could be quite happy when they grow in pots. So what I want to do is I bought some special soil for it, the rhododendron soil, so I used that for the potting, and then mulch it on top of it fairly well. And it is standing close to the house, which means during the winter time, it's going to get the heat that comes from the house as a second protection actually. So I think it will be quite happy, and it even formed a lot of buds actually for next year. So you get to see on rhododendrons already now the flower buds for next year forming. And this variety is going to flower in kind of like a light lilac, pinkish blush kind of tone, really beautiful. I'm absolutely excited about it and can't wait to see how it does, how it performs in winter. Then I have a lot of pine cones and like pine branches. So those are the ones that we cut the other day in my previous video. And I'm really going to incorporate some of those in some of those pots as well. And then this is kind of like the decoration that I want to use. So I have these like natural pine cones. And when it comes to the tree, I have these like white pine cones with a little bit of glitter on it. And I like even how they're fixed. They have like these like natural ribbon around it. So I could just come in here and just hang them on the branches. Don't need like any extra metal hanger or anything. So this is kind of like the color that goes on the tree. I'm going to put lights on it obviously, and then only these kind of cones will go on there. I think I have like 24, 25 around that, maybe a little less. Then what else do I have? I have candles obviously. I'm going to use white candles now for this decorating. And then also for the outdoor chair, I have like a special pillowcase that I bought saying Merry Christmas, I think, also in black and white. So this is basically everything that I'm going to use, but before I can start decorating and staging and planting and everything, I need to get in there and take down all of the Thanksgiving decoration and store it well. So this is what I'm going to do now first, so let's get cracking. I managed to tidy up everything, the staircase, I've freshly wiped off and everything. So this is now the perfect time to do the potting and start like think about your decorating, because everything in my bag is drying off at the moment. And what I want to do is just quickly show you how I pot things up. So the first things I want to pot up are my hellebores. I've already started with the first one. Just quickly going to do the second one. And when it comes to hellebores, I use just a general purpose potting compost. So nothing in particular really. I actually even had like something left from my tulip planting. So I'm even going to use that. It's well drained. Still there's like fertilizer already worked in there, but even though I don't want to grow them in the pots actually, like after the holiday season at one point, I will just get in there and put them in the border and really mulch them in well there. So what I do is just like quickly tip it over. It has a good root system. I could already see it like in the store, so all the roots are looking like fleshy and white, really beautiful. Just get in there, firm it in nicely. Then I just need some more soil. So I've got my shovel here and a pot with more prepared garden compost. So that's perfect. Just get around there, just work my way around. Try and make it quick now, so the video is not going to be endless of just potting, because actually it's not a potting video. This is about decorating for Christmas, but decorating for Christmas outside also means potting up a few things, of course. Really firm it in nicely, because you do not want to have any air pockets in there, because when we have frosty nights, the last thing that you want to happen is like if I water it and water collects in one of those air pockets, or frost might come into those air pockets, then the plant is really going to suffer. So this is really the one thing, whatever you're planting in the ground or in pots, maybe even more so I would sometimes feel, always firm it in nicely, make sure that there are no air pockets around it. That feels good. There's a little bit, so just a tad more soil and that's it. And then I'm already ready actually. And then what I do is I'll mulch it, and I just use the exact same mulch actually that we use for the garden, so just like wood chips, because this is another layer of protection for the plant as well. And also I think it looks sometimes quite nice in the pots, especially now when you do like Christmas or Christmas decoration or anything. You can also just use one of the pines actually that I cut, some of those branches, and I think this is something that I might do as well in some of the other pots probably. Just a good amount in there, even if it sits a little idle. I quite like the look. Oh, that is so pretty. I just love the growing habit of the hellebores. I think they're just so elegant, beautiful plants, and they fit everywhere, I think in every garden. All right, next thing is the rhododendron. So I happen to have still a lovely and nice basket weave pot, which is really beautiful. And in the base, I put a crock in here, but if you don't happen to have a crock, what I do is I just use one of these pots, just basically come in with my scissors, cut off the entire rim around it. So I just have like maybe a centimeter in height left here. And then I use just the base of it, the bottom part, and pop it upside down in my planter. And that is like as good as a crock in your drainage hole. Just always make sure you cover your drainage hole, because otherwise all the soil is just going to wash out of it. So what I do now is like I have my bag of like special rhododendron soil, and already if you look at it, it kind of looks different in color and texture. You can just tell that that kind of soil is different and does something different to the plants. So just again with my favorite garden tool, like these potting shovels are the ones that I really use most all over again, whatever I do in the garden. They're so good, so convenient. Just work it in there, and I don't put any additional fertilizer or anything in it. You don't want to put, you definitely do not want to put like the bone chips, the organic bone chips that I normally use in there, because this is really not what they want to have. They would probably more like to have like a soil acidifier or something to make sure that the pH level is right for them. But since this is a special soil, this should work out just fine. Firm it in a little bit, because if I start watering it in, it's going to go down anyways. Now the plant out of the pot. I mean, every plant always has a front and a back when you look at it. So for me, this is kind of like, oh, there was too much soil in there already. This was pretty much the front of the plant, because you really see like how these like little branches are drooping down. So I put the front, what I think is the front of the plant, in your direction. And all I'm doing now basically is fill it up again with the soil, and then I will just put some mulch on top of it. I just quickly want to show you, make some space here, One last thing that I did, kind of like a decoration thing, because I think these are nice things to do sometimes and easy. I just use a pot and put some moss from our lawn, actually. I mean, this is kind of tragic. I can just go to the back of a garden, to the lawn, and just really get a big patches of the moss. And within a month, that is completely filled with moss again. But so it is. So I just put some soil in there, just some moss on top of it. The pine cone is quite big, though, so you're not really going to see a lot of the moss. But I think sometimes it's quite a cute look to just put a pine cone maybe in there and just like in the entire arrangement, maybe next to the hellebore, to this hellebore. I think this just adds something a little different in terms of like texture and interest in general. Another thing I'm going to do, I think I just used some of those pine branches that we cut the other day and just put them in a pot maybe. So I can also just use them in amongst my staging. But I just need to see. First thing I'm going to do is like finish off the rhododendron, make sure that everything is mulched and well, and then I start with the staging and the decorating of the Christmas tree. I'm ready and I'm really liking it. And look, Alfie fits perfectly into the color scheme actually. This is what I thought earlier. I was like, oh my God, don't tell me I just have changed the entire color scheme just to make it match to Alfie. But what I want to do, as promised, I just want to give you a closer look at everything and show you how things are looking. So here on the right, I start at the base. So I got the pine cone in the pot, and I think this is actually really nice and kind of like a fast element next to another pot where I was using all of those cuttings that I still had from the last project of the garland. So pine and all the evergreens, still had a little bit of ivy that I just wrapped around the pot. And then if I just continue, here is a eucharis. I'm really happy that I still had a couple of those eucharis, because without these red accents or like purple plum accents, something would have been missing in there. And I think that they're the perfect planting partner next to the hellebore, because the hellebore, if you just look at it, it has this absolute delicate like blush pink flush on the flowers, and then the stems are really dark purple burgundy red already. So I think that they are just like an absolute perfect plant combination. And then you see, like, I always like to incorporate like some sort of formality. So I have my boxwood in here next to the pure white hellebore, really beautiful. Then the little Christmas tree from last year, where I just quickly wrapped like some Christmas lights inside, and the rhododendron. Really happy with that. That was a beautiful addition. I think it's always important to have like some leaf interest going on in whatever you do, and this is definitely leaf interest for me. And if you follow me for a while and you remember my garden, I love to grow hostas that have just the same leaf variegation going on. So I think this makes total sense that I like this one. So if I swing to the left, not a lot really had changed or happened here in this flower bed. So I just exchanged the chartreuse color heather that was in there and substituted by the kale. And I think this is actually also really nice, again, with the euchre next to it, because you have like the euchre color, and then the center of the kale has this purple tone in it. So I think they are just a really nice combination. I'm rushing things up because the candles are still burning and the wind is picking up, but I just want to show you how it looks with the candles on, because I think this is always so nice and cozy. I love to put things here on the table. like the pine cone, and then just like the heather and ivy is up there, and then in the back there the pillow, Merry Christmas on the chair. Even though, I mean, obviously I'm not going to sit here anymore, it's too cold, but it is just, I think, nice and warm and welcoming to have something like that next to your main entrance, and the Christmas tree. I mean, this is obviously a centerpiece, and I'm happy that I was just using one kind of decoration ornaments, only the white pine cones, and I think that they're looking really nice and they can shine in here now. And I could use something that was really happy. So if you remember, I was doing some autumn planting here a while ago, and for that I bought this brand new wicker basket, and I'm loving it. And I could fit the pot of the tree inside there, and isn't it looking smart? So nice. And then in combination with some timber that I still have, really happy and just loving it. So I think what I want to do is to just go back now and give you just like a quick look at everything again without shaking too much. And what do you think? How do you like it? I still intend on showing you how everything looks at night. So when it's dark, obviously, but so far I'm really happy with it. And I think this is just a really nice entrance. And it really speaks Christmas, kind of like Nordic Christmas to me. You guys, that is it, and I'm super happy with the outcome. I always love to get my hands in here and stage the main entrance area of the house. As you might know, I've done a couple of videos here already, and I really think that it's super important to really change this area just to excite yourself and also excite other people who are visiting you. And I just love how cohesive it looks, that everything works so well together. The colors of the decoration also in combination with the house, with the landscape that surrounds us. So I can't wait to see how it looks tonight, because what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go inside first, make myself a nice hot cup of coffee, because what happened in the last half an hour or so is a really cold wind from the Baltic Sea started picking up, coming straight from Scandinavia. But it's like, it's fresh, beautiful, fresh, crisp air. I'm loving it. But I'm going to hit the town, and then when I come back later on tonight, it's going to be dark, and then I get to enjoy the beautiful view. And I hope that it's going to look as beautiful as night as it does right now. Let's see. I wish you a beautiful Christmas time, and I would love to welcome you very soon in my garden, or maybe in one of my projects indoors again. Take care. Bye.